So you're watching the week 4 Monday video instruction. Now for the lecture this week, it'll be from me, HTML and CSS, a continuation of what we saw last, using implementing more code. So these have videos of their own. I don't need to cover on them there. The only thing I would say is make sure you're submitting your commit history for that folder as your submission here. Okay, so for the other two items this week, we're going to have a hands-on about better at coding and implementing 3 HTML elements. Okay, so the better at coding, here's what I want you to do. Now that you've done a bit more coding, I want you to find tutorials or articles that talk about how to become more productive at coding. And in this case, I'm saying HTML and CSS, but it's just better at coding, and generally that's because that's what we've been focused on. Okay, now how would you find these, right? So I'd go to YouTube, and I might start with how to be more productive at with coding, right? And there'll be all kinds of stuff, right? Some of it music, some of it motivation, some of it mindset, right? But I might dig down a little more, like how to be more productive with it, right? I could do that. All right, how to code faster. Yeah, this is a good one. Right, so I want you to find something. You could also, by the way, VS Code, because VS Code has a whole built-in productivity, and most people don't even touch on how much productivity, how to be productive in writing code. Right, there's just all kinds of built-in things to make that better. So the point of this assignment is for you just to find something, right? Find something that you found somebody talking about something you're interested in, and then I want you to do that thing for 20 minutes. So find something you're interested in and then actually implement that for 20 minutes. Right now, in this case, you could build something up in the private repo. You don't have to save it there. Matter of fact, you don't have to do commit history here. It's really just code something. And then, do it for 20 minutes once you learn whatever that technique is, right? So do it. So the important part of this is actually to find something you might enjoy, right? And then do it. And then in your post, provide us a link to what you followed. I'll modify that. And then the experience of attempting to implement that suggestion or tutorial, okay? Now here's the key. Each of us needs to find a unique research, some unique tutorial. So make sure you're checking, because I do when I look at your post and I look at the timestamp. So make sure before you post something, right, make sure somebody else hasn't already done it. We will need to do replies. Oh, actually, I need to take that off. Just replies, 150 words on your post, and 2 replies for this work. Okay, so that's your hands-on. And actually, your hands-on and the current topics are going to feel both like hands-on, which I think is always good. So this is going to be implementing 3 HTML elements we have not covered. And I've given you a link here to the MDN I'd referenced in here, right? So I want you to find 3 that we have not covered, which should be pretty easy because we've only touched the surface here, right? So find something that we haven't covered in lecture already and implement them. Now, for this particular one, and you're going to do this in your public. Now, I'm giving you here the URL that ultimately you will share with everyone. But remember, what this really means is on your local system, in your public repo, you're going to create a folder called W4. And then you're going to do the work in there. Now, in this case, I'm not going to explicitly go over, but I'm just going to tell you, you're going to create an index file, a simple web page, right, and implement these 3 elements. Now you can find some sample code out on MDM, but modify that code, come up with your own examples of content or ways to implement it. And I did a real quick draft. I didn't complete it, but just to give you an idea, which I'll show you in a minute. So part of this, I want you to see how well you're translating the HTML, CSS. Like I would say, here's my suggestion, okay? Just create a W4 directory in your public repo. See if you can create the index and the styles.css. See if you can remember how to connect that right? Then go find your 3 elements, bring it into the index file, find a way to style it, right? So do is see how much, and it's really okay, see how much you remember, like how much of it is becoming muscle memory. It's okay if none of it did. It's fine. It's okay if all of it did. Right. So again, here's the W4 directory. Um, oh yeah, I want to say this. Remember, it can take anywhere from a few minutes to hours to update the content to show up on the. And then when I say GitHub.io, I'm talking about the one for our repo. Okay. So as an example, just a simple layout, the one I did is I chose object, progress, and small. So those were the 3. Now you can lay this out however you want. And I just went out and did object, and it actually was kind of cool because this is actually a PDF. It's actually the schedule. I looked at progress indicator and small. Now in this case, I just showed you because, I showed you the basic output, but I want you to actually do a little more work here. Again, right? First, see how well you remember how to set up that structure. Can you remember how to do the CSS style? Do you remember some basic styles you could do, right? Just kind of see how well you do that, right? And then in your post, right, you're going to share your URL. Okay, remember this will be the same for all of us. What will differ is the repo name. Now this should be the same, right? So, and again, we've already set this up. You're going to end up using this again for Thursday night, but not this directory, but this idea. So you're going to see it a couple times, right? So in your post, discuss how well you were able to set up the folder and files or any related experience you had in completing this work. And no need to do replies, just your post, 150 words. But it is good to look at each other's work just to see how other people approach this. Okay, so that's your Monday night item. And then I'm going to go now do your Thursday night.